The rain hammered against the windshield like accusations, each drop a reminder of everything Marcus had lost. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles had gone white. And somewhere in the blur of headlights and water, he'd stopped caring whether he made it home at all. That's when he saw her. A figure huddled beneath the broken awning of a closed laundromat, soaked through despite her attempts at shelter, holding what looked like a bundle of rags against her chest. He should have kept driving. God knows he had enough problems of his own. The foreclosure notice sat in his glove compartment like a ticking bomb, and his daughter Lily's medical bills were stacked so high on his kitchen table. They'd become just another piece of furniture. The chemotherapy had drained their savings, their hope, and nearly drained Lily herself before she'd finally, miraculously, gone into remission 3 months ago. Marcus had nothing left to give anyone, least of all a stranger on a street corner at 11 o'clock on a Thursday night. But something made him pull over. Maybe it was the way she was shaking. Or maybe it was because she reminded him of Lily, that same fragile determination, that refusal to completely surrender even when the world had clearly decided you weren't worth the trouble. "You need help?" Marcus called out through the cracked window, rain immediately spotting his sleeve. The woman looked up, and Marcus saw she was younger than he'd thought, maybe mid-20s, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of too many nights just like this one. But it was what she was holding that made his breath catch. Not rags, a baby, a tiny infant wrapped in a threadbare blanket, somehow sleeping despite the storm raging around them. "My car died," she said, her voice barely audible over the rain. 3 blocks back. My phone's dead too. I just need to get to the hospital. My baby, she has a fever. I've been walking, but—" Her voice cracked, and she looked down at the child in her arms with an expression Marcus knew too well. Terror wrapped in love. He didn't think. He just unlocked the doors. "Get in." She hesitated for only a moment before hurrying around to the passenger side, sliding in with the careful movements of someone, trying not to disturb a sleeping child. Up close, Marcus could see she was shivering violently, her lips tinged with blue. The baby stirred and let out a weak cry that sounded like a kitten mewing. "St. Mary's?" Marcus asked, already pulling into traffic. "Yes, thank you." "God, thank you so much." The drive should have taken 10 minutes, but the storm had other plans. Streets were flooding, traffic lights were out, and twice Marcus had to detour around downed trees. The woman, she'd told him her name was— Elena kept checking her baby's forehead, her anxiety filling the car like smoke. "She's burning up," Elena whispered. "I gave her infant Tylenol, but it's not working. She's only 4 months old." 4 months. Marcus pressed harder on the accelerator, something unlocking in his chest. He knew this fear. He'd lived it for 18 months while Lily fought for her life. He'd sat in hospital waiting rooms at 3 in the morning, paced hallways until his shoes wore through, and prayed to a God he wasn't sure was listening. "What's her name?" Marcus asked, trying to keep Elena focused, trying to keep her from spiraling into the dark place he knew too well. "Sophia, after my mother." Elena's voice softened. "She died last year, cancer." The word hung between them like a ghost. "My daughter just finished chemo," Marcus found himself saying. "She's 12, Lily. She's in remission now." Elena turned to look at him, really look at him, and something passed between them, an understanding that needed no words. They were both members of the same unwanted club, the fraternity of fear and impossible choices, and loving someone so much it physically hurt. "You understand," she said simply. "Yeah, I understand." They reached the hospital 15 minutes later, though it felt like hours. Marcus barely had time to park before Elena was out of the car, running toward the emergency entrance with Sophia clutched against her chest. He should have left then. His part was done. He'd gotten them there safely, and now he could go home to his dark house and his stack of bills and his sleeping daughter who was alive, alive, alive. Instead, he followed Elena inside. The waiting room was packed. Apparently everyone had picked this storm to have a medical emergency. Elena approached the triage desk, her words tumbling over each other as she explained about the fever, the lethargy, the fact that Sophia hadn't eaten in hours. The nurse, tired and overwhelmed, took down information with mechanical efficiency. "Do you have insurance?" she asked. Elena's face crumbled. I have Medicaid, but the card, it's in my car. The car that died. I can give you the number, I memorized it, but we'll need to verify it before we can... She's a baby. Elena's voice rose. She's sick. You can verify it while you're treating her, can't you, please? The nurse's expression didn't change. I understand, ma'am, but we have procedures. If you can retrieve the card or have someone bring it... My car is 3 blocks away in the rain. Elena was crying now. I don't have anyone to call. Please, just look at her. Marcus stepped forward before he could stop himself. I'll cover it. Both women turned to stare at him. Elena shook her head violently. No, you don't need to... How much is the emergency visit without insurance? Marcus asked the nurse. It depends on what treatment is needed. But the initial fee is $450. And that's before any medications or tests or... Marcus pulled out his credit card. The one that was already maxed out. The one that would probably be declined. But he handed it over anyway because what else was he going to do? Watch a 4-month-old baby suffer because of paperwork? The card went through. Somehow, impossibly, it went through. Maybe there'd been a payment posted he'd forgotten about. Or maybe the credit card company's computers were running slow. Or maybe sometimes the universe decided to cooperate for 5 damn minutes. Thank you, the nurse said, suddenly warmer now that payment was secured. We'll get you back as soon as possible. Elena turned to Marcus, tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to thank you. I'll pay you back. I swear I will, every penny. I work at... Don't worry about it, Marcus said, though he was already calculating how he'd make rent now, how he'd explain to Lily why they couldn't afford the school, field trip she'd been excited about. Just take care of your daughter. They sat together in the waiting room for 45 minutes before. Sophia was finally called back. Elena stood, then turned back to Marcus. Will you stay? I don't want to be alone. So he stayed. He sat in that uncomfortable plastic chair and scrolled through his phone without reading anything. Jumped every time the triage door opened and thought about Lily. Home alone because he couldn't afford a babysitter, and she'd insisted. She was old enough to manage for a few hours. It was almost 1 in the morning when Elena finally emerged. Sophia bundled in her arms, looking slightly better. The baby's eyes were open, and though she was still fussy, there was color in her cheeks that hadn't been there before. Ear infection, Elena said, her relief palpable. They gave her antibiotics. She's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. Marcus felt something release in his chest, a tension he hadn't realized he was carrying. That's great. That's really great. They walked to the parking lot together, the rain finally reduced to a drizzle. I meant what I said, Elena told him. I'll pay you back. If you give me your number, I can set up a payment plan, or... Really, don't worry about it. I have to worry about it, Elena said fiercely. You don't know me. You had no reason to help me. But you did, and you paid for my baby's care when you didn't have to. And I won't just take that without... She stopped. Took a breath. Please, let me have your number. Let me pay you back. It's important to me. Marcus hesitated, then rattled off his number. Elena typed it into her phone, and they stood there awkwardly for a moment, 2 strangers who'd shared something profound without meaning to. Can I give you a ride back to your car? Marcus offered. Would you mind? I called my brother. He's bringing jumper cables. Should be there by now. They drove back through the quiet streets, the storm having passed, leaving everything washed clean and glistening. Elena's brother was indeed waiting by her beat-up Honda, and Marcus helped them jump the battery. When the engine finally turned over, Elena's brother, a burly guy with tattoos covering both arms, shook. Marcus's hand so hard it hurt. You're a good man, he said simply. Marcus drove home thinking about that, was he? He'd helped because he couldn't not help, because he remembered too clearly what it felt like to watch your child suffer. There was nothing noble about it. It was just human. Lily was awake when he got home, curled up on the couch under her favorite blanket, watching some late-night show. She looked up when he came in, her head still fuzzy from where her hair was growing back. You're late, she said. I was worried. I helped someone, Marcus said, and found himself telling her the whole story. The woman in the rain, the sick baby, the hospital, the credit card that somehow went through. Lily listened with the solemn attention of someone who'd grown up too fast. And when he finished, she smiled. That's exactly what you should have done. Even though it means we're probably going to be eating ramen. For the next 2 weeks? Even though Marcus sat down next to his daughter and pulled her close, grateful for her warmth, her solid presence, her life. They sat like that for a while, not talking, just being together in their small house with their impossible problems. 3 days later, Marcus came home from work to find an envelope taped to his door. Inside was $100 in cash and a note written in careful handwriting. "This is just the first payment. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for stopping. Sophia's doing great. You saved her life and gave me back my faith in people. I'll never forget it, Elena." Marcus stared at the money for a long time, then went inside and added it to the stack of bills on his kitchen table. It wouldn't solve everything. It wouldn't even solve most things. But it was something. It was hope in physical form. The payments kept coming. $20 here, $50 there, always with a brief note about how Sophia was doing. Marcus tried to tell Elena to stop, that she needed the money more than he did. But the envelopes kept appearing. After 3 months, she'd paid him back in full. The last envelope contained a photo of Sophia, smiling and healthy, and a longer letter. Elena had gotten a better job. She'd moved into a nicer apartment. Her brother had helped her buy a more reliable car. Things were looking up, and it had all started with a stranger who'd stopped in the rain when he had every reason to keep driving. Marcus put the photo on his refrigerator next to one of Lily blowing out birthday candles. 2 children who'd been sick and were now well. 2 small miracles that had nothing and everything to do with him. That night, driving home from Lily's follow-up appointment, still in remission, still okay. Marcus saw a woman struggling with a flat tire on the side of the road. He pulled over without hesitation. "Need some help?" He called out the window. The woman looked up, relief flooding her face. "Yes, God, yes. Thank you." Marcus got out of his car, popped his trunk for the jack, and got to work. Lily came to stand beside him, holding the flashlight without being asked, and together they changed the tire while the woman watched gratefully. "You're very kind," the woman said when they finished. "Just paying it forward," Marcus replied and realized it was true. Elena had paid him back, yes, but more than that. She'd reminded him of something essential, that helping someone wasn't about having extra to give. It was about recognizing yourself in another person's struggle and deciding that their burden didn't have to be carried alone. Driving away, Lily said, "That felt good." "Yeah," Marcus agreed. It did. The bills were still stacked on his kitchen table. The foreclosure notice was still in his glove compartment. All his problems were still exactly where he'd left them. But something had shifted. He'd been so focused on what he didn't have that he'd forgotten what he did. Have, the ability to see someone else, to stop, to help, to choose kindness, even when it cost him. Maybe especially when it cost him. That was the thing about being human, Marcus thought as he pulled into his driveway. The hard times didn't disqualify you from helping others. Sometimes they were exactly what qualified you, because you knew, you understood, you'd been there in that desperate place, and you remembered what it meant when someone reached out a hand. He didn't have much, but he had enough to share. And maybe that was the whole point, not to wait until you had plenty, but to give from what little you had, trusting that somehow, some way, there would be enough. For Sophia, for Elena, for Lily, for himself, for all of them struggling and surviving and occasionally, miraculously, stopping in the rain for each other.